Alright, so with the recent release of Chapter 119 of the One Punch Man webcomic, we got a whole bunch of new info on the history of the One Punch Man world, as well as some of the geography as well. So given that we have so much information, there's a lot to talk about. I'm talking about webcomic stuff, so we're going to be going into spoilers that haven't happened in the manga yet, so if you don't want to know what's going to happen, I suggest you check out now. So first of all, let's just establish the geography of the One Punch Man world because it is very different to our own. Now, we get a few glimpses of this throughout the series. So the first time that we really get to see what's going on with their planet, we see it from the perspective of the meteor closing in on the Earth. So we see that, first of all, there's like a massive supercontinent that's taking up most of this planet. And this is actually confirmed in Chapter 119 as well, and we'll get into that. But then we see that there's like other little continents around the globe as well. We also get another glimpse of it when Saitama is kicked to the moon and when he does the serious punch as well. So that's pretty much confirming that, yeah, this is the way that things are on their planet, I guess their Earth, if you will. And this is going to be important because it really ties into why things are the way that they are within the One Punch Man world. So now let's get into the history of everything now that we've got that established. So apparently a long time ago, we don't have like an exact time frame on this, Earth had many nations, and they all fought against each other for like land and resources, and apparently there was countless world wars because of this. So let's go back to the time frame of when this could have happened. So like I said, it's a long time ago, and given that Saitama also says that apparently the people of this world learned this history in grade school, I'm going to assume that maybe it's kind of like, I don't know, like 70 to 100 years ago or something like that. Maybe similar to our own world wars in our reality, you know, like World War I and World War II. Now, we do get like a brief glimpse of what the supposed World War looks like. Like, they straight up have tanks and like aircrafts that like drop bombs and stuff like that. And we see like this massive explosion in the center of it all, like a mushroom cloud. So I'm assuming that nukes were used, which we'll get into because they probably play a big part in this. But I'm assuming that, you know, maybe it wasn't too long ago, maybe, you know, less than 100 years, somewhere around there. But apparently these countless world wars caused the population to decrease so much that they feared basically human extinction because of it. And then in light of that, they were like, all right, we need to chill out on this. We're going to go extinct if we don't stop. So let's just call a truce, because they just wanted to prioritize the preservation of just the human race and future generations as well. So they all came together and apparently unified the languages and established a world government. And that was apparently the first era of change. And that brings us to the second era of change. So the massive world wars have stopped and everyone's just chilling now, and they're trying to rebuild and, you know, just make a cohesive civilization. However, the aftermath of the said world wars has kind of caused irrevocable damage to the Earth, or at least it's implied that it has. I mean, it eroded the Earth like significantly. It increased the environmental toxicity. It caused rapid climate change, including a rise in sea level. And because of all of this, apparently it gave birth to a large number of harmful life forms, and I'm assuming that he's talking about mysterious beings / monsters here. Now, this might be the origin of monsters, or at least the first recorded case of them. Now, it's really hard to say like if that is the case, but I guess this is as far back into the history that we've gone so far, and monsters being mentioned. Now, I know that in the anime, we see the Ancient King, who existed during the time of the dinosaurs, and he definitely wasn't like a normal dinosaur. He was just like a straight up monster. But also it goes into question like, how much is that canon? Is it actually a part of the continuity? I mean, we also know that the studio messed up the intentions that one had originally with that scene with like how Tatsumaki takes out the Ancient King. But also it's like conflicting with everything, because recently, I think in like chapter 125 or something, or 124, we saw Tatsumaki in a flashback take out the Ancient King. So does now that mean that that's continuity? Is it canon? Or is it kind of just like Murata winking at the anime in a way? Unsure at this point. But like I said, as far as we know, this was like maybe the first time that monsters were discovered or something, meaning that monsters are a result of the environmental change due to the world wars. And that's going back to what I was talking about with atomic bombs being used or just nuclear weapons in general. I'm assuming that multiple of them were used. I mean, yeah, you can cause like this erosion to the earth just through like standard warfare and production of the war to, to fuel that stuff. But man, such significant change like this in seemingly not that long of a time. I guess there was like mad nukes used, and it really messed things up, and I guess in a way gave birth to monsters as well. And this also ties into what Dr. Genus was talking about when he was explaining monsters to Zombie Man. So aside from like the nuanced biological aspect of it, he says that there are also those whose cells mutations are triggered by environmental factors. There are like many cases where human life forms are transformed into monsters as a result of pollution and other factors. And like the sea folk, they are considered monsters, and they were monsters like from birth, quote unquote, the natural enemies to intelligent humans. And we'll go back to that. But this also might explain the origin of like Deep Sea King, maybe the Sky King, and maybe even the Subterranean King, like as well as maybe even Elder Centipede and other like bug monsters like that. All of these creatures were a result of like the aftermath of the world wars, like the crazy climate change, the pollution caused by it, and I'm sure some of the nuclear stuff possibly gave birth to monsters like this, at least the natural monsters. But with the birth of these monsters or harmful life forms, it forced humanity to abandon much of the landmass, the supercontinent that we were talking about. So I guess that means that most of humanity was pretty much on this central supercontinent, because not much info is given about the other like little continents that like orbit around it. And they all reestablished and migrated to the middle of the supercontinent. So it's like, okay, that also explains why the cities are the way that they are. Because we know like the cities go in numerical order pretty much, and they're all like close together. Because we know that it's really easy for the heroes to go from like one city to another, as we saw like during the Monster Association invasion and other, portions throughout the series. But this is it. So like we're looking at, I guess, most of civilization, if not all of it. And considering that like it was on the brink of extinction, quote unquote, a long time ago, I'm assuming that maybe there's only like, I don't know, like 1 billion people in the One Punch Man world, and they're all living together in, I guess, like what you would consider like one country, like in the center of this supercontinent. And then all of the languages are unified and all of the cities are together. So then once all of that stuff was established, society began to prosper. And that brings us to like the current time in the series, which is the third era, or at least my math says that it is upon us. And I assume that we are currently in it, at least from the time that Saitama removes his limiter, possibly, because he says that the third era basically consists of the common occurrence of monsters possessing high degrees of intelligence. And then he also says our natural enemies. And that goes back to what Dr. Genus says with the sea folk and other natural monsters like that. They are the natural enemies to the human race. So that's interesting, and that's something that I want to talk about in the follow-up video to this. But apparently this wasn't always the case. Like intelligent monsters and them coming in abundance, and especially them originating from humans, wasn't always a common thing. I mean, it was rare a few years ago, but as we've seen currently in the series, it happens all the time. So that's going to go into what I really want to talk about in the next video, which is like my theory on the true origin of the monsters and how everything connects into the One Punch Man world. So I'm assuming that this started maybe around the time when Saitama met Crepalante, maybe like 2 years before that, somewhere around that time. I don't think it's been like a decade since this stuff has been going on the way that it has. Considering that he just says it's like a few years ago, it's probably lining up with that, maybe around the time when the Hero Association was formed, because I'm assuming that that would have started even if Agoni wasn't inspired by the acts of Saitama, because there was definitely going to be a need for super powerful individuals who aren't monsters to take out the said monsters. Either there was going to be vigilantes, kind of like Metal Bat type dudes who were just ultra powerful from birth, going out there taking care of things on their own, or we were just going to have Blast, who basically ruled over humanity. I mean, not like in an evil way, but kind of like Superman, as he just came and went as he pleased and kind of kept order as best as he could. But that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. My next video is going to be, like I said, my theory on the true origin of monsters and how it connects the dots of the One Punch Man world. But if you like this one, please give it a like. Let me know what you think about this stuff in the comments. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a weekly Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.